big picture preview of the Women's World Cup down in Australia and New Zealand. Let's have a go at some predictions, kind of rank the favourites. And first question to you, Nick, is a really easy one. Which teams are in the mix to win it all this summer? Because the USA, obviously, we know they're going for the three-peat, historic if they can do that. But then there's some European powers who have been really flexing their muscles in recent tournaments. And it kind of feels like this is a changing of the guard situation maybe in the women's game. But what's your take on sort of the favourites for the World Cup this summer?
Yeah, I feel like it's something we're going to say. We've said for the last couple tournaments, and we're going to say for the next few. The depth in women's soccer is deeper than ever before, and so you could point to any number of teams. Like it's starting to get to a point where we can talk about dark horses the way we do in the men's tournament, right? It seems to be Serbia every year. Who is it this year on the men's side? The U.S. to me are still the favorites, with England and Germany right behind them. But injuries to the U.S. have made this an even more open tournament, right? I think if you think about the players who will be missing for the U.S., whether it be the experience of Becky Sauerbrunn or the skill set of Mallory Swanson, you can really point to other teams probably licking their chops and saying, this can be us. And when you have the talent we've seen on display, whether it be France, whether it be Brazil, the hosts, or even maybe a dark horse from close to there in Japan, I think there are so many teams who will think if we get the rub of the green, this could be our tournament.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of teams there. And I think if we look to Europe, that's obviously been a really strong hotbed of women's soccer over the years. But even more so now when you add in England, the reigning European champions, they've lost a couple of big players for injury too, like the US. But they're looking very, very good under Sarina Wegman. And obviously they beat Germany to become European champions at Wembley recently. So do you think, the Lionesses and maybe Germany or maybe chuck Spain in there as the sort of main contenders along with the USA? And of course, let's not rule out what Marta could do for Brazil, but it seems like some of the European teams are going to be the ones right there with the US when all is said and done.
For sure. I with England, there are some big injuries to overcome as well. So there's a little bit of I think go back 2 months and it's England and the US. But I think about the depth of Germany. I think about the depth of France. And Spain. Spain's gone through a really interesting situation with some players maybe bowing out or not being considered because of for political reasons as well. But you look at their star. You look at Ada Hegerberg. I think I said it right, from Norway, who we missed out at Euro because of a protest as well. There are so many stars. Sam Kerr for Australia, and you mentioned Marta before. Man, they can take over a game. Kerr might be the best player in the world. And we're just kind of sleeping on an Australia team, Joe. I know you've mentioned this before, that hosts have done well at World Cups, especially on the men's side. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Kerr, she was the, Football Writers Women's Player of the Year here in England, did great things for Chelsea. They keep on winning trophies all the time and just a goal machine. And she's become the symbol for women's sport, basically, and sport overall in Australia. So you're right. I think there's going to be so much positivity around this Australian team. The Matildas obviously have really progressed in the last few World Cups and gone to a new level. So, yeah, I always think the host nations, you should not underestimate them, right? Because that swell of positivity that is on the ground during a tournament, if they get off to a good start, then, the side of the bracket they're on as well, I think is slightly beneficial to them. So it seems to me like Australia will have a good chance. New Zealand may do better than we think as well. I don't think they're contenders to win it, but they may reach the latter stages of the knockout rounds, and we'll wait and see. But I'm really looking forward to seeing these full stadiums and excited crowds down there in Australia and New Zealand. You mentioned some of the individual players, Nick. Who's going to steal the show? I mean, Hegerberg, Pop, Kerr, Marta, Harder. Alex Morgan for the US obviously is sort of the main player that we're looking to take the tournament by storm once again. But who out of those players, or someone I haven't mentioned, or maybe a rising star, do you think is going to steal the show at the World Cup this summer?
Really, really good question. Some of those rising stars, whether Sophia Smith is someone interesting to watch. There are openings on the U.S. side, and I think because of the complete nature of this team and the depth that they have, that someone can really step up and claim the throne. To me, when I watch the U.S. play, Joe, and again, I hate to sound biased here, being an American, but Lindsey Horan just runs the pitch,
Yeah.
and I'll be really interested to see if she becomes that sort of, if she isn't already, of course, household name that comes out of this tournament. Trinity Rodman also as a dark horse. But if we do get away from the U.S., then I have to look at Sam Kerr. She's been starring in the U.S. before she went to England and starred for Chelsea. She scores wherever she is. Magnetic personality, hardcore player. Just absolutely will do anything to win. And I think if you were to ask me to bet, I would probably go with Sam Kerr as getting a sort of crowning achievement. I'm not saying they're going to win the tournament, but in terms of walking away from this tournament in Australia and saying, oh, what a beautiful country, what a great tournament, and their star shown, wouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah, I think so. I think England and Germany are going to do well. So I'm looking at a couple of their players. Maybe Lucy Bronze has been excellent at fullback and just a real dynamic player for England that seems to run the game from the fullback position, which doesn't happen a lot in the global game. And I just think that she's such a special talent. And Pop as well up top for Germany. If she keeps scoring at the rate she has done over the years, then it stays injury free, like wasn't the case for the Euro final and swung the pendulum in England's favour over Germany. Then I think if Pop stays fit, then she'll be right there scoring boatloads of goals at this tournament, along with Kerr, along with Morgan and some of those other US players you mentioned. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. It's prediction time. Who wins it all? And let's not forget, there is one loaded side of the bracket, it looks like, and also travel is a big factor here, depending on where you're based during the group stage and how much travel you've got to do around between Australia and New Zealand. So I just wanted to chuck that out before you named your favourite to win it all.
Well, Joe, I not famously, because who was paying attention to me, predicted against the U.S. last World Cup, and I'm not going to do it this time. They are a team that has been on the stage. They're a team that's not going to be kind of bowed by the pressure, a great mix of experience and young upstarts as well. I really like some of the players who have been kind of forced into the mix, the emotional boon, if you will, of being able to, to ride off of Megan Rapinoe's last tournament, of her saying that beforehand. So I fear Germany. I have a slight fear of England. But I look at the tournament overall, and there's just something about it that says the U.S. are going to make history once again.
I think you're probably right. I think there's a really nice, like you said, balance between the U.S. players, of players who haven't been to the World Cup before, and then players who have been there many, many times and can have that experience. I think it's hard to look past the U.S. It really, really is. I think if anybody does win it, I think it'll be Germany or England. I just think that they are the best team units out there. They have great individual players, but I think as teams, they play extremely well, are hard to break down. And defensively, they proved in the Euros that they can get the job done as well. And if you're looking elsewhere, then maybe Spain can go on a run, or don't rule out Norway with the superstars they have. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the US, this is their tournament to lose. And even though they've had some really, really big blows through injuries, they're still so stacked, right? You still look at that lineup and there's superstars throughout 1 to 18, 19, pretty much, no matter how old they are. Even some of the younger players like Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith have done it on the global stage now for quite a while and scored a lot of goals. So, yeah, I think this is just going to be a pivotal moment for US soccer again to see if they can do what no other team in the history of the World Cup has ever done and win 3 in a row. So I'm with you. I think they're going to do it, and it's going to be a wonderful World Cup to watch. So make sure you head over to Pro Soccer Talk and NBCSports.com for all the latest news from the Women's World Cup. On Her Turf, we'll have you covered as well. And Telemundo and Peacock, you can watch all the games in Spanish across the USA over on those platforms. So we'll have you covered with video highlights, analysis, reaction throughout the entire tournament. And it's going to be a lot of fun down in Australia and New Zealand this summer.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.